I'm Literary Freak 11, and I'm here with another journey through the multiverse of my mind. I'm actually doing it during the daytime for once. This is the card for today. Again, details are kind of small. So there's a princess, and she kind of has her arms crossed. There you can see like some of the scars on the tower marks right there. That looks like he's already kind of slashed it. And then there's a couple of rubbled towers kind of dotting the landscape. So those are the main features. The word, which I actually totally neglected yesterday, but the word is recalcitrant, which means obstinately defiant or of authority, or difficult to manage. Pay attention to which character you think is recalcitrant, because it really could be either one. Cantronalis watched from her tower as the night felled another tower. Its occupant, a girl in an emerald dress, jumped from the balcony, and the night caught her and set her down as gently as if she were made of the thinnest spun glass. Of course, her other option would be to stay in the crumbling tower and be crushed within it. Leaving the tower behind, the knight neared Cantronalis' own. She gazed out at the remaining towers that dotted the countryside. All of the princesses and noblewomen had come to look at the source of the noise, a loud clang of metal on stone. But those she could see were too far away to gauge their expressions. Cantronalis might have suspected this knight was a woman on a crusade to free her fellow women from the imprisonment in the towers. But the knight was so incredibly tall, and his gait was unquestionably male. When the princesses and female gentry were of marriageable age, they would go to a vacant tower. Families spent exorbitant amounts of money to have the tower cleaned and furnished based on their daughters' desires. Then the woman in question would move in. Women would select a skill they wanted to hone and perfect, for they were not meant to be stagnant while waiting for a man, and the apartments would be outfitted with everything they would need for their quest for knowledge or dexterity. Then she was locked in the tower, for the only lock was on the outside. Pulley system attached above the window allowed the family to hoist the key up to her. But it would do her no good, since the lock was on the outside. Each woman selected an obstacle to guard her stay. Some women picked creatures like sphinxes to administer riddles, or else did the administering themselves. Others might pick a magical beast, or enchantments that needed breaking, or set tasks like baking a pie. Some women merely wanted to talk to the man, while still others dangled keys tantalizingly out the window before snatching them back, laughing raucously. Men would walk through the massive expanse of field. Some were looking for a woman who matched their beauty standards, or who were honing skills they were interested in. Some merely looked for the easiest task to complete. Those were either gay and looking for marriage for status rather than love, or just plain lazy. Occasionally, a man would free more than one maiden, but it was incredibly rare, and this knight was not freeing these women by winning their hearts or overcoming their tasks. He was using brute force to break their prison, hacking at the base of the tower with his massive sword. The freed maidens sat huddled together. They seemed quite shaken, but Cantronalis couldn't make out their faces that far away. Looking around her tower room, she assessed her options. She looked at the fine stitchery, the beautiful gown she had made over the last 6 months of her stay. She could throw them out the window. They would possibly be cleaned, but they were unlikely to survive being crushed by rubble, so she'd have to throw them far out the window. She could throw her key out and perhaps avoid the destruction of her tower. She went to the shelf where she kept it and picked it up. Then she felt a tremor rock through the floor and almost dropped the key. Now she was mad. She slammed the key down on the shelf and walked to the window. In the 3 steps it took her, the knight had taken 2 more swings at the base of her tower. "Stop!" she yelled. She emerged on her balcony, and a 3rd swing rocked the tower. She grabbed on the railing. He hadn't heard her because of the loud clang his sword had made. She waited until he was drawing back for another swing and yelled, "Stop!" again. "My lady," a male voice issued from the armor, and she grinned slightly to see that her guess had been correct. "Do you not want to be free of this horrible ritual?" he asked in confusion. "I should like to be wooed in the traditional manner," Cantronella said, talking down to him both figuratively and literally, being about 2 stories above him. "Perhaps you do not understand the meaning of such practices, as meaning is often lost in the rote of tradition." Despite the fact that she could not see the knight's face, she could hear the bemusement in his tone as he replied, "Oh, so enlighten me." In any good relationship, both people must learn to be independent and self-actualized. This practice helps women become self-assured and comfortable being alone. She has not often fended for herself until this point. The task gives young men confidence. They feel as if they've earned their place in the world. I have enjoyed my time here, and I await a man who will see the value in who I am and what I can build with him. I'm not interested in your wanton destruction." The knight looked up at her, sword hanging limply from his hand, too stunned to speak. "Besides, the dragon atop my tower will be mad at being woken," she said. The knight took 2 large steps back and craned his neck upward. Sure enough, there was a yellow topaz dragon sunning himself, wrapped around the pinnacle of her tower. The knight looked up at it for a moment and said, "Good day, my lady," in a shaky voice, and walked away from the tower. She crossed her arms and smiled. She had given him a lot to think about. Well, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. I actually really think this one probably won't be a novel, but I think it's interesting in terms of the kind of ritual practices that I created. And it's also really interesting in terms of kind of traditional versus new age ideology. So anyway, I enjoyed writing it. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Have a good one.